My eyes snapped open at the sound of gnashing teeth. I blinked a couple of times just to make sure my eyes were open, because all I saw was black. A creature near me was trying to take a bite out of something, but I couldn't see shit. A single light bloomed in the floor in front of me, which illuminated someone walking on the ceiling. Steel bars separated us. My mind raced, trying to figure out how they were ignoring the laws of gravity. I looked down to see a chain affixed to some shackles around my legs, which were floating upwards. A sudden shift in my perspective made my head spin. The shambling gnasher on the other side of the bars wasn't walking on the ceiling. I was upside down, hanging by my feet. This was far less than ideal. I saw the thing beyond the cell door in a new light. While it looked human at first glance, wearing a tattered plaid shirt and torn dirt-stained jeans, it chattered away to itself as it searched for prey. It had once been human, but definitely wasn't any longer. The sockets of the eyes were empty, full of putrescent sludge which dripped over its pallid cheeks as it wandered around the room beyond the cell. Something that looked like osteoderms, the thick scaly armor that covered the backs of crocodiles, had started to grow over the exposed skin of the thing's head. I frantically looked around the cell to find some way I could get myself loose. My heart sank when I saw the door standing ajar. It wasn't all the way open, but nothing would stop that thing from getting in here with me if it stumbled in the right direction. Above me there was a lock on the shackles, which meant there had to be a key somewhere around here. I just needed to find it. I swung my head in either direction, desperately looking for the key. How long did I have before that thing discovered the open cell door? My arms were tied in front of me with a loose coil of fraying rope. I grinned as I brought the rope to my lips and started tearing at it with my teeth. Sometimes a small victory is enough to stoke the fires of motivation. A jolt of pain in my left arm made me pause. I recoiled for a second and stared dumbfounded at the unmistakable outline of a key sitting just under my skin. "Oh, this is some jigsaw bullshit," I said, and immediately regretted opening my mouth. The eyeless thing rushed towards me with its mouth open and its arms outstretched. It slammed into the cell wall and bounced off. Even though its eyes had turned into lumpy strawberry jam, it could still hear me. With a long and storied history of watching horror movies and writing my own horror novels and screenplays, I knew I couldn't waste any time. I worked the rope with my mouth until I could slip my hands free, then lifted my forearm to my lips. No time to think. No time to second-guess myself. No time to dwell on how much this was going to hurt. If I didn't do this, then this motherfucker would tear my face off as soon as it came into the cell, and that would hurt a hell of a lot more. I bit down. The key felt huge in my mouth as my skin bulged around it, a hard core inside the soft flesh of my forearm. Skin tore, blood flowed, filling my mouth with a warm, coppery tang. I pulled away and jammed my fingers into the jagged wound, fishing around inside for the key. I found the jagged teeth of the key, then tore it free, ripping out some fatty tissue and part of my skin with it. I tested the fingers of my left hand quickly, and was happy to see that I still had a full range of movement. I hadn't damaged any ligaments. I tossed the gore away from the key, and prepared my abs to do some real work for a change. I lifted myself up towards the shackles, holding my feet in place, and felt the pressure rising in my head. The chain was locked with a massive padlock, which I might be able to use to my advantage if I managed to get it free. I slipped the key into the bottom of the lock, and at the same time, the cell door started to creak open. The next thing I knew, the damn thing was in the cell with me, and I battled with the padlock. I went very quiet and very still. The chain that held me to the ceiling was taut and didn't make a noise, but if I fell out of those shackles and onto the ground, I'd make a hell of a racket. I'd probably end up knocking the wind out of myself too, leaving me open to attack. The next bit was going to be hard. The padlock slipped open as I turned the key. I held onto the chain with one hand and worked each of my feet out of the shackles as slowly and carefully as possible. The eyeless thing moved around the perimeter of the room, using its hands to feel along the walls. My abdominal muscles screamed at me, but there was nothing I could do until my second leg was freed, and after a few terrifying but careful moments, it was. For the first time since my rude awakening, I was right side up, and my head swam as the blood rushed back down where it belonged. I held the chain with one hand, the padlock held claw-like by my pinky finger, with the shackles clutched in my other hand. Before I let myself drop to the floor, I threw the shackles into the far corner of the room.